Like somebody said that I was fat and that I look ugly and that I'm bald and stuff. Like, you don't want a guy who's gonna cry about those things. You want a guy who can actually like handle that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of the Nap Bros podcast. And today, Andrew and I are back in the Ask Reddit subreddit of Reddit, and we are looking at the Redditors who have answered the Reddit to a certain question. And so we are going to answer the question first, and then we are going to see what they answered and see if we can agree, see if we disagree, and then get your opinions. We want to hear what you have to say on this. So, without any further ado, let's read the question. Men of Reddit, what are some of the worst things about being a man? So let's do you and I. We'll just do the answer first. Like, what do you think is the worst thing about being a man, or some of the worst things about being a man? You choose one, or you could do a couple.
Worst thing about being a man. Well, in today's culture, it's literally being a man.
Okay, what do you mean?
I mean, like, I don't know. It's kind of like that whole book we read that one time, Sovereignty, where it's like, be a man, but then the culture's all like, well, only be a man when we need you to be one, you know? Hey, you know, like for instance, you know, like, I say stuff all the time to certain people, you know, or like there's a TikTok out about this where it's like, you know, the guy gets asked, hey, what do you feel about paying for all the bills in the relationship? He's like, no, that's crazy. He's like, because if I do that, what do I need you for? He's like Frederick Douglass, the man fought for you to have just as many rights as I did. So why should I have to pay for everything? Never goes over well, but you know that's number one.
So would you say maybe one of the worst things about being a man is being expected to pay for everything?
The hardest thing about being a man is just, I don't know, just, I mean, oh God, there's so many different ways this could go. You know, like the hardest thing about being a man in a marriage is like if shit goes wrong, they want to blame, like it's your fault, basically. Yes, you're
okay.
To edit that word out.
Yeah. You could always redo it and just be like, if stuff goes wrong.
Oh, dang, did it again. Just beep it out. That's better. Beep it out. Can you beep it
out? I can beep it out. So anyway.
So let's see. Simplest one. If I had to pick one, I mean, that's it. Just being a man just sucks sometimes. I mean, you can't just limit it to one. I mean, there's just different aspects of it, you know, like, God, it's so wrong. Like, I don't know.
I would say one of the hardest things for me personally being a man is, I don't know, I guess one of the challenging things is being the leader of the family. Like that, it's something that's like, I know it's expected, and some people would probably be like, oh, you know, you're just buying into the patriarchy of, you know, where it's like the man's job to lead. Like, yes, that, but also, I mean, I believe that even in scripture, it talks about that in the Bible, and as a Christian, I'm like, okay, that's my responsibility as a man to lead. But I also think it's like an incredibly challenging thing too, is because sometimes I just want to chill. You know, I don't want to be the one who's like, I don't want to be the driving force behind the family as a whole. And so sometimes, and that's just mostly because I'm lazy. Like, if I'm honest, it's just one of those where I'd really like to kind of just sit back, take it easy. Not think about too many things, but also like being the primary breadwinner is a little challenging too. Like, it's trying to think of ways that actually, one of the things that I'm currently thinking about, especially now, is how can I make sure that my family is okay when I'm gone or when I'm not okay. Like when I'm not okay, like if there's something that's injury wise or something that, has happened or I'm dead, like how can I make sure that my family is okay? And I think that's one of the worst things, but also like it's not worse in the sense of like I, I feel bad about it, but it's more like that's something that kind of like is there in my mind that I think about and whatnot that I am thinking through and stuff like that. I think that's a challenging one for me.
I mean, like for instance, like it's just not okay to be a man these days. Like it's just the worst part of it. Like, and you like explain. I mean, I can't be aggressive, but then I'm supposed to be a protector and be aggressive. You know, I can't step over somebody's rights, but I'm supposed to do the one that's making all the decisions. So you know what I mean? Like there's, like it's like it's a two-way street. It's like they want it this way, but then they want it that way. And so like, for me personally, when I'm you know the man, so to speak. I mean,
Mm.
I will not bend, I will not bow. So, don't ask me to do it unless you want to follow 100%. Because if not, then you're just going to have hell to pay for it. Is that allowed to be said? Is that word?
Yeah, that's okay. Are you talking about more in your relationship, or are you
Well, not,
talking
not
more
just
just in
that, not
society?
just that, but like also, like for instance, raising children, you kind of have to step on boundaries, and it's like, how, God, we should have picked this one first. I feel like we should split it up in like multiple questions. The most difficult thing about being a man, let's say at work, okay, let's go with that one. At work is holding your tongue because of how everything just gets misconstrued. It's like, for me personally, my opinion is this: if you're doing something wrong at work, and I say something to you, I shouldn't have to worry about being called out about it. Yes, I could probably use different words, but the point is like you're messing up and you're making everybody's job harder. That'd be like the one thing. So you kind of have to be like a a wimpy man, as Arnold Schwarzenegger would say.
I would. So one of the things, and this is just from my perspective, it's not so much that you have to be a wimpy man. It's more along the lines like you need to be mindful about how you call somebody out, because like it's
I
very
have no
easy.
tact. That's my biggest problem. I don't like having to
Right.
be tactful. I should just be able, I should be able to say what I mean 100%. It's like you don't want me to be emotional, but then you want me to be emotional. It's just the back and forth. That's the worst part of it. You want this, you want that. It's a double standard of being a man. You have to be this and this at the same time. You have to be
I
tactful
I would say
and straightforward. You have to be emotional and non-emotional. Strong.
I don't necessarily see those as exclusive. Like I don't see that, because the thing is like
Are we back to
on the one
statistics
hand,
again? Mutually exclusive.
well, no, what I'm saying is like when you're talking about like using tact, I think that's a sign of maturity. Like you can tell somebody that they're messing up and that they're screwing up and they're ruining things for everybody else, but you can do it in such a way, a mature way, because I think that that's a reactive thing, and I think that that's a dangerous place to be. Like if somebody's doing something that's pissing you off, like I think it's a mature thing for you to be able to like calm yourself down, and instead of lashing out, you take that. And I think that that's a part of being a man as well, is calming yourself down, being mature about it, and then going and being like, hey, here's the thing. You're messing this up for everybody else. Like, I just want to let you know, like, you gotta stop doing that. Like, you can't be doing these things. Instead of being like, look, you're effing up, you piece of garbage, like you worthless piece of junk. Like all of this crap you've done is just garbage and stuff. Because I don't think that that's being a man. I don't think that's at all being a man. I think that's just being an emotional person. like letting your emotions run high in a ridiculous way. But if you're tactful about it, like, yeah, you can be emotional. That's fine. And I think that when people are saying, like, yeah, now everybody's like, they'll say, oh, you need to be an emotional man. And one of the best things I've seen is like, you don't want to have somebody who's like soft and sensitive all the time. You want somebody to be kind of soft and sensitive at the appropriate times, of course. But women who are dating men want somebody who's soft and sensitive at certain times, but they don't want him to be soft and sensitive all the time. Like if you see a guy crying over like everything, like somebody said that I was fat and that I look ugly and that I'm bald and stuff. Like you don't want a guy who's gonna cry about those things. You want a guy who can actually like handle that, like who can actually be mature enough. But you also want somebody to be sensitive, where like they're caring about your thoughts and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think that's a mindful place to be. I think that is actually what men. I think that's what true men should be. I think we've gotten too far. I think in certain cases we've gone too far to one side or the other. Either you're too emotional and not mature enough to handle it, or you have no emotion and it's just straightforward like nothing. And I think there needs to be a balance there. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
I think Chris Rock nailed it. This is the last serious thing I'm going to say, and then we'll go a little happier. I think Chris Rock nailed it perfectly, where he says,
You mean Will Smith nailed Chris Rock perfectly?
No. Chris Rock said it perfectly, where men are only valued when they can provide something for you. That's all it is. Men are valued. You're looking at, God, I don't even remember all of what he said, but I mean, it's pretty much, men have to be able to do this, and this, providing for everything just to be worth something in people's eyes, or another one was, men don't get to, like, I don't know, it sounds weird, but men, like, don't pick, who they want to be with. Or something like that. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. What did it say? God, what is it? Women get to choose who they want to be with. Men, men work at being with people that you. I don't know, something backwards. I can't think of that one. But in all seriousness, it's just. You're expected to provide something. If you're a man, you have to have your crap together, basically.
I guess kind of like the aspect of it is like you as a man are expected to provide for the family. And that can be difficult. I'm not saying that that's easy. And there's definitely like stressful things about that, like feeling insecure about that or being uncomfortable about that. Because I know I've been there, like knowing that I'm the one who's responsible for making sure that my family's fed, making sure that my family has a roof over their head, making sure that we have the things that we need. Not necessarily the things that we want, per se. Like, we don't necessarily need to have that really nice car. We don't necessarily need to go out to that fancy restaurant and eat. We don't necessarily need to go do those fancy vacations and stuff like that. But just making sure that my family has what they need. And so I can understand that. But, like, the other aspect of it, though, too, like, generally that's going to take time. There was a reason why for a long time and for most of the time it was men who were older were marrying women who were much younger because they had that maturity and they also had that stability. And so they were secure. They were safe. And so then the women who were younger, again, generally, like with women, like they generally, like they have their looks, but even that ends up running out after a time. Like you can use if you have good looks, like those looks and your youth and your vitality, like those eventually will run out. Like those will eventually end for women, and so they become, in essence, less attractive, as where the older men become more attractive because they're more stable, they're more secure, they have the money or the job or the career or the finances available to be able to take care of. And so, like, I don't necessarily like just looking at it from both perspectives. Now, on that being said, like you have people who I would say maybe nowadays one of the worst things about being a man is having to live up to the expectations of women in society these days. Meaning, like I've been watching some videos on YouTube where guys will go out or people will go out and interview these women and be like, "Hey, how much do you think your man needs to make?" And they're like $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. I'm like, are you insane? Like, I don't think you understand how much that is. Like, and some of the women, you're like, that girl's too ugly to be asking for that much. Like I'm sorry, you're too ugly, you're too fat to be asking for that much. Like, and I can say that as a fat person, as a potentially ugly person, I can say that. Like I can judge people and be like, too fat, too ugly to be saying that you want a man who's gonna make 200, 300, 400, 500, $1 million a year. Like, you're out of your mind. Like, to sit there and expect that from a man. Like, the problem is we become so disillusioned and we become so caught up on like social media and seeing how like all these lavish lifestyles or these fake lavish lifestyles, and then we're like, well, I need to be there. Like I deserve to be there. That's an issue. I think that's probably one of the challenges for everybody, but including for men, is like having to live up to those expectations. I would say for me, probably the worst thing, trying to understand my wife. Not always, but there are times.
So that Chris Rock
where I'm like,
was
okay,
only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. A man is only loved under the condition he provides something. Speechless. I like it. Still speechless.
I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe just as the contrarian. Maybe just as the devil's advocate. I always have to disagree with somebody that says something.
Two Americans are negative.
So women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. What about cats? Are they just left out? Then nobody cares about cats?
Nobody likes cats, honestly. I mean, I like cats, but they're just retarded. Like, they don't just come to you unconditionally loving. Like, you know.
I don't know if that's necessarily. I'll say this. One of the challenges is that, like, you, and maybe I'm living in this utopic mindset where it's like you as a man are finding a woman who is going to make you a better man, who is interested in like where you could be and helping you get there, versus someone who expects you to give everything to them. Like, that's the thing, is like, oh, and I'll say this actually, because I wanted to mention this because this is really fascinating, especially here in China. So in China, if you wanted to get married, and I'm blessed that my wife accepted me 100%, because generally, if you want to get married, if you're a Chinese man and you want to get married to a Chinese woman in China, generally, you have to have two things. One, you have to have a house. And two, you have to have a car. Generally, along with, preferably, ways to pay for those, but also, like, potentially, like, a good career or a good job or a well-paying job kind of thing. And so you could potentially be sucked into a really crappy situation, a really crappy job, because you have to pay for these two things in order to get the wife that your family is forcing you to get, or your family is pushing you to get, or in order to get, married because of whatever reason. And so generally you have to have these two things in order to have any chance of having an option for the women that you could choose. Because, yeah, you could choose a woman that doesn't really care about that stuff, but then, is she really the type of person that you want? And so I was really blessed in that I got a woman who A, tries to make me better, B, accepts me for like accepts that I'm working, that I'm doing work to make our lives better, and also trying to do work that will also take care of the family and pay for the needs that are there. But then 3 is also okay with not having a house and a car currently. Now that doesn't mean that she doesn't want a house later on, of course, but it's okay that I don't have a house and a car right now. And other people are not so fortunate. You know, other people kind of get forced into this, and you get forced into a job that you may hate in order to pay for the stuff that you're trying to use to impress this woman, and then you end up resenting that person, or resenting that woman, or resenting the job, or resenting other things. And so, like, I would say that's probably something that really sucks to be a man, especially here in China. I wanted to read kind of the top one that was replied to. This one says, having to man up. Something bad happened, man up. Stress out, man up. Horribly depressed, man up. Feeling sick, man up. It's pretty ridiculous. That and getting hit in the crotch.
Yeah, that one was the top one. Getting in the crotch was a top one.
Yeah. Well, no, it was all the same. But what do you think? What are your thoughts about this whole idea of manning up, and especially going back to the book of sovereignty that we kind of went through?
The idea of manning up. And I do the same thing too. You know what my least favorite thing is? It's like, um, let's say somebody asks me a question, right?
Right.
And what my first instinct, if I don't know the answer, is to do what?
Tell them you don't know.
But no, I Google it and tell them what it is.
Oh, okay.
Like then I started like it's kind of like borderline noise. I'd be like, just Google it. Like that's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna Google it. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did I tell you about my wife and me, like that whole situation?
No, because that happened between my wife and me. But like, listen, I don't know. All I'm gonna do is Google it and send you the answer Google gives me. I was like, so like low key, I just take a picture of what Google says and send that to her. I don't need that from you. I need to know when I ask you a question. Don't ask me because I don't know.
I had there was one. Mine was a little less serious, a little bit more funny. Just because she asked me, my wife asked me, it was something about English, something that had to do with some kind of grammatical thing, or like how to spell something, or I don't know, it was something along the lines of English. And I was like, I'm not entirely sure, but let me give you a website that'll help you out. She was like, okay. I was like, all right, it's G. She's like, all right, G, O, 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 G, G, L, L, E. She's like, you. I was like, she's like, you son of a. She flipped me off. I got a coin. I was like, yay.
Like the fact that I had to spell the whole thing before you got it.
No. Well, yeah. Well, because again, like for her, like she's still learning about like my humor bits and pieces. Even after like 3.5 years, she's still learning. Like there are moments where like I'll do little zingers here and there every once in a while, and so she's still picking up on it. I'm sure it'll take probably another 3 to 7 years for her to finally like catch on to all the different nuances of jokes that I make and stuff. But getting back to this idea of like manning up, I guess like, yeah, if something bad happened, like it depends on what the bad thing that happened. Like, cause like bad is such a relative term. Like somebody calling me fat, some other person would sit there and say like, that's bad. Me, like, I know that I'm fat. Like, no duh. Somebody calling me bald, like somebody saying something about me on the internet or responding in such a way, like to an extent, yeah, it is kind of like just, I mean, it's bad for some people, but in all honesty, like manning up in that situation, like not being so fickle with your emotions. Like, cause like again, it's going back to that idea of like one way or the other. Are you being fickle with your emotions? Are you being like so like instantly reactive that you just lash out at people? Or are you doing the exact opposite and burying everything so that eventually it blows up? And I'm like, you've got to find that in between. You can't do one way or the other. You've got to find that good in between in order to be worth a darn. Let us know what you guys thinks in the thinks what you guys thinks. Let us know what you think in the comments below. What is the worst thing about being a man? And if you're a woman and you're watching this, you can comment too. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
They can't. You're not
if
a
you're
man.
not,
What?
that's okay.
No.
I'm curious.
What's
We're
the worst
open
thing
to
about
anybody.
being a man for a woman? I don't need Karen's explanation of what she thinks the worst thing about being a man
It's
is.
not necessarily Karen's explanation. It's just maybe they have an idea. It's kind of like a foresight. Maybe they see something that's like, oh, you know what? We never thought about
A
that.
foresight. It's
Anyway.
hindsight because you already been a man.
If you're a woman or a man, we'd love to hear what you have to say. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button. Click the bell. That way you can be notified. Leave us a like. Leave us a comment below. If you're listening on your podcasting app, hit the subscribe button. Leave us a 5-star review. Also comment, what is the worst thing about being a man?
We'll take 4 stars also.
Preferably 5 stars. 5 stars is the best.
4 out of 5 ain't
is the
bad.
best.
Just give us 100%. I agree. 100%.
I'm Nick.
I'm Andrew.
And as always,
you have the open invitation to our conversations.
Bye-bye.